Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today I'm continuing my coverage for the Tribeca Film Festival with the short Nea. So briefly, Nea follows Peluche, a taxi driver slash henchman for the cartel, as he tries to survive a night of bad luck and violence. What starts off as a typical night for a drug dealer turns into an odyssey of misadventure where Peluche really has to contemplate his life decisions. The short is unique in that it blends Italian and magical neo-realism to delve deep into the psyche of a young man at his breaking point. It often breaks the fourth wall with Peluche describing the origin of the word Nea to explain and draw empathy for this lifestyle that he embodies. We don't really know much about our main character. We know that he has a daughter that he loves very much, and it seems like a lot of the turmoil that he's having, wondering whether or not he'll make it back to her by the end of the night. The short starts off and we're introduced to Peluche driving a taxi with a man bleeding in his back seat. Totally unfazed, he begins to unpack the word Nea. As the short goes on, this word starts to take on a more personal meaning. He alters the word, he plays with it, but no matter how many times he tries to change it, it doesn't really erase its original definition. So according to this young man, Nea originates from the word gonorrhea, which means either bad person. It's basically like the worst insult you could throw at someone, or a bad situation, like what's happening in his back seat. It could also mean friend or poppy. The word Nea specifically is a term that was very popular in the 80s among very posh school kids because they were shamed for using the word gonorrhea. And all these variations of the word doesn't really change its original definition. I mean, it may clean it up, it may make it sound less insidious than it actually is. It's not like this effort to reframe the word made sense for Peluche's character because he's been doing this for quite some time. Again, we don't know much about him, but he's covered in scars. He's covered in blood. And the longer that he's done this, he's managed to reframe his life, redefine his life, so it doesn't feel so abnormal. A lot of the jobs he takes on throughout the night are jobs he's done before, telling the same people not to do the same thing. And on this night in particular, the absurdity, like the insanity of it all starts to really dawn on him. When we first see Peluche, he comes off almost as like a caricature of a young man in a gang. He almost doesn't feel like a real character. As the short goes on, we really start to empathize with him. He starts to break. He really, you can feel the toll this night is taking on him. And you realize this persona is one that he has had to craft to survive a very difficult environment. Like his shirt is ruined, his taxi is ruined, his daughter has to miss school again because he's not able to make it home on time. He hasn't slept in days. He's basically just exhausted, and by the end of the night all he can think about is his daughter. And it's very clear that he measures his morality by the way in which he's able to take care of his daughter and be there for her. It seems like although he's done a lot of very questionable things, it's not coming from a malicious place. As a young man who's had to survive a difficult environment, he's kind of come to the realization that maybe even though he can't get out of it, he can help somebody else get out of it, in this case his daughter, and he's willing to do anything in his power to make sure that she does. I thought this was a fascinating short about morality and also about sort of culture. I mean, so many people, like the word Nea was a term used in sort of posh communities who looked at individuals like Peluche as entertainment. But Peluche is actually living that life that so many of them fetishize and so many of them dream about, and it's a complete nightmare. Overall, I thought it was fascinating. I'm curious to see where it goes. You guys let me know what you think, and until next.